Hello, our dear student teachers. You have successfully completed your practicum year and have just stepped in one of the most honorable occupations in the world, teaching. Being a teacher is much more difficult than it seems to be. When I was at primary school, whenever I looked at my homeroom teacher, I wanted to be a teacher because she looked so effortless while doing her job that I thought I could do that too. I wanted to be how she looked, effortless and satisfied. Today I know it was actually the persona she created to help us learn. Today I know teaching is a 24-hour job to which you have to pay a great effort. Because a teacher does not only give information to students. A teacher paves the way towards learning for the students to walk. During this long and painful, yet rewarding walk, they are not alone, because your role is to guide your students, hold their hands when they need help, cheer for them when they need encouragement, and be a good listener when they need somebody to talk to. Your students' success depends on how well you can team up with them, how well you can convince each to join you and the others during the learning process, and how clearly you show them there is nothing to be worried about or afraid of when they are learning. In order to achieve to build such an environment for them, the most helpful 3 strategies are being just, always convey them the feeling that there is justice in your classroom, establishing an excellent communication, work hard to build an environment in which they can democratically express their emotions and opinions, and as a result, building unshakable trust. Let them know and feel that you are on their side. You wish them to be successful. You are always ready to help them and cooperate with them. So they are not alone while they face the intimidating journey of learning. However, what makes us human is our errors. Even when you're sure you have built the perfect environment for learning and the perfect persona as the teacher in it, you will face with so many challenging behaviors by your students throughout your career. Managing behavioral difficulties will be a big part of your job, one that you may naturally feel overwhelmed by. Today, I'm going to talk about what a problem student behavior is, what the general causes of misbehavior in the classroom are, and conclude with some practical advice. Problem student behaviors or classroom incivilities are behaviors that are not desired and are sometimes unacceptable in a learning environment. Every student may have a moment of disruptive behavior or an error in judgment, but problem behaviors exhibit consistent patterns. They occur regularly, especially after some triggering factors emerge. The students may already have the problematic behaviors when they start school, or they may develop a problematic behavior through a series of experiences during their social interaction with peers. They may also develop it while attending the school due to some issues they are having in their families, or as a result of some unfortunate, even traumatic events they experience. The result of the problematic behaviors which are not attended to on time is often a disrupted learning environment. If preventive measures are not taken in advance, they may destroy the flow of learning for everybody in the classroom. I'll get to the problem behaviors in 3 categories in accordance with the level of threat they suggest: low threat, intermediate threat, and severe threat. The behaviors that pose a low threat are those which are not persistent, which answer to the preventive measures or immediate attention, which are caused by controllable external factors, and can be reasoned out with cooperation with the student. To give you a rough idea, here are some examples to such behavior. Inappropriate use of technology during class to check social media or play online games, talking out of turn by interrupting the other students, challenging the teacher in front of everybody else in the room, breaking basic classroom rules like walking or running around during class, and leaving the classroom without permission, refusing to participate in the class or any of the activities, etc. The behaviors that pose an intermediate level of threat are those which are persistent, which increase in degree each day, which do not answer to the preventive measures or immediate attention, and some external and internal factors which the teacher is unable to control are effective in their emergence. Also, in such cases, the student is resistant to communication. If such behavior peaks, it may develop into a behavior that poses severe threat, especially if the causes of this behavior are related to physical and mental health. Severely threatening problem behaviors are those which put the health of the other students at risk. They can also cause harm to the child, him or herself, and isolate the child from his or her peers. Behaviors in these two categories should be dealt with the cooperation of the teacher, the head teacher, the principal, the parents, and the professionals like school psychologists or behavior experts. That's why we are going to focus only on the behaviors that pose a low threat. One way to change behavior is to understand why the behavior is happening to begin with. There isn't always an easy answer to this question, but if you can answer it, it will help you enormously solve many of the frustrating behavioral issues in the classroom. The first and most basic reason why a child misbehaves may be because his or her needs are not met. If a student is hungry or tired, it's harder for them to conform and do what is expected. Depending on the level of hunger or tiredness, their focus and patience may get lower and lower to a point where they will start acting in a defined manner. When students' very basic needs are not met, they will act out in disruptive ways. The second reason may be, and this is also a very basic one, medical issues. Today, more and more kids come to school with underlying medical conditions that impact their ability to behave and function like their classmates. The number of students who are likely to be on the ASD spectrum has dramatically increased in the last couple of decades. ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, is a developmental disability caused by differences in the structure of the brain, which is widely thought to be a genetic disorder. Boys are 4 times more likely to have an ASD diagnosis. Students with ADHD, which means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or anxiety disorders, are part of the norm in the classroom today. Many of these diagnoses come with inherent related issues. Students who are mainstreamed in a regular education classroom need behavior support to function positively. Because of the lack of education of the parents on mental health, or because they simply do not want to believe their child may have a mental health problem, I recommend you to do some research about these conditions, and when you suspect that a student may have any of these problems or some other learning difficulties, consult a specialist and inform the parents in a suitable way. These conditions can be taken under control if they are attended at the very early stages. And in severe cases, these children can be taken to learning environments that are specially designed for them. Another reason why a student misbehaves may be other relationships with the teacher, peers, or the school staff. Their relationship with these people may not be in place. We can't say enough about the importance of the connection between a student and the teacher. If a student comes to school and doesn't have a genuine connection with the teacher, they have no reason to be committed to learning. In fact, lack of connection with the teacher gives them a reason to not behave. They have no vested interest in conforming to the requests of the teacher. There are many students who feel isolated, unapproved, and unloved by their teachers because of their misbehavior. And this actually contributes to their misbehavior up to a point there is no turning back. Some of these demonstrate strong intention to leave school because of this vicious circle. Our motto as a teacher should be, leave no one behind. So we should be on the lookout for such students to prevent them from leaving school. Greeting students, getting to know their interests and things about their life goes a long way. The students become more invested in you as the teacher each day. They want less to act out against someone who cares about them and who they care about in return. Some students may have a stronger need to seek attention of adults or their classmates than others. They may feel like they don't get enough attention at home or at school. The increase in the number of such children widely believed to be caused by the evolution of our modern societies. Today, it's almost a norm for both parents to work for long hours during the day, which results in spending less time with their children. And children spend more time at school than they did in the past. Especially in the urban areas, the children start preschool at the age of 3 or 4. They go to school very early in the morning and go back home after 11 or 12 hours, or after their parents leave work. As the parents are the most important people in their lives, their lack of attention may lead the child to seek the attention he or she needs elsewhere, particularly at school, which results in behavioral issues. Because when students want or need attention, they will act out to get it, even if it gets them a negative response. For some students, attention is attention. They don't care how they get it. What you should do is to give them the attention they deserve and do it consistently. You should seek to acknowledge positive choices and ignore the negative ones. This will show the students that if they act positively, they will receive attention from you. But if they have the misconception that they can get attention for negative behaviors, those are likely to continue. Sometimes students will act out as a way to establish power. Students who feel insecure in the class or think that they are seen unimportant may feel the need to establish a power base. Unlike the compliant students who are showing that you are in charge, these kinds of students may choose to act out to let you know that they want or need more power and more control of a situation. These kinds of students may challenge you and question your authority in front of everyone else. Or when they work in cooperative groups, they may insist on asserting themselves as the leader of the group, may act in an uncooperative way, and try to dominate the rest. With such students, patience is the key. First of all, they should realize that there is nothing wrong with being a leader, but a leader should always care about the rest of the group. To achieve this, you can give constructive tasks to such students. They can be the class representative. They can be your little assistant in distributing the papers, collecting homework, and some other important looking tasks. Assigning such tasks to these types of children regulate their behavior immensely. Some students may lack confidence in their social skills, or may simply not know or are not sure how to behave the right way when they are a member of a group. If a student is lacking in confidence, they may act out as a way to cover up their insecurities. Others may act out because they don't have the skills to express what they want. For example, a young learner might feel frustrated that their work doesn't look like one of their peers. Instead of articulating that they need help to improve their own work, they may lash out at other students who they feel inferior to. When combined with lack of confidence to say they need help, or they want to be in a particular group for a particular activity, the lack of skills in choosing the appropriate words to express their need leads them to act out, misbehave, or use the wrong choices, attempting to get other results. To boost their confidence and skills, you can involve them in communicative activities, extracurricular social activities, in which they become a member of a group, such as a dance group, where they can be provided with enough opportunity to practice their social skills without the intimidating atmosphere of the classroom. Curriculum-related issues can be another reason why a student misbehaves. All students are different. Each has their own pace of learning and power of focus. You should always bear in mind. For example, you may have a student who isn't being challenged enough. Such students may learn faster than their peers, and the curriculum may be easier for them. They get done before other students during the class and don't feel intellectually challenged. Please remember that this isn't a fault on you as a teacher. When such students are bored and get restless, they will tend to misbehave. For such students, you may have to design extra work that they can do while waiting for the others to finish. You can write a number of different tasks on small papers and keep them in a big, fun-looking jar, and ask these students to draw a paper from this jar when they finish their activity and do the task written on it while waiting for the others. An alternate issue is when a student is slower than the others to complete an activity. The work may be too hard for them, or they may simply be unable to understand how to do it. You can pair such students with the former type of students, the ones for whom the work is easy. When they work together, it is most likely to solve both students' problems. The classroom environment may be another reason why your students misbehave. As all students have different learning styles, it is not easy to be responsive to the needs of all learners while building a learning environment for them. The environment we work in impacts how well we work. If a student is having a difficult time with some classroom environmental factors, you could be getting negative behavior because of it. If you have an active classroom that thrives on movement and noise, you could have a student who is overstimulated and acting out because of it. Some students may prefer silence and being alone in order to focus on their work. In contrast, some students may need discussions in groups. Building a learning environment that is suitable for every student is hard work, requires careful planning before the term starts, and effective use of every corner of the classroom. When you get the students on a task, you can seat those who need to be alone to a quieter corner of the room, the noisy group to another, and those who need your assistance most closer to you. Some misbehaving students may be testing the boundaries. Children start establishing their independence at a very early age by refusing to hold their guardian's hand while walking on the street, or insisting on eating their food by themselves. The children who are dominated by their parents into behaving in a harsh manner while they are establishing their independence tend to show more severe resistance when you try to rein them in the classroom. Students in classrooms are constantly balancing boundaries. They conduct little experiments to see how much control they can achieve in choosing misbehavior, like refusing to do the task or breaking the rules. What can I get away with? What will happen if I don't do what the teacher is telling me to do? This is a natural process for children in learning what is right or wrong, appropriate or inappropriate, what is okay and what is not okay. But children often don't know how to stretch the boundaries the right way. Your impatient reactions to their misbehavior could teach them that they have control over your emotions, and this would lead to severe problems of misbehavior. They may start acting out when they want to do or don't want to do something, just to test your boundaries, just to get the desired reaction from you. They may act out in certain ways just to make you angry or sad and have fun with it when they get bored. Or, for instance, if a student doesn't want to do the spelling activity, they may throw a fit to make you impatient. If you give in and adjust the assignment down, you have, in essence, told them all they need to do is act out to get their way. While it can be difficult to be adamant in the face of inappropriate behavior, it is a must. This leads us to the importance of the teacher's behavior in classroom. A successful management of classroom behavior begins with regulating your own behavior. Through communication, we all contribute to each other's behavior. We affect and in some cases shape each other's behavior. While you work at school, always bear in mind that you don't have control over the curriculum, the school policy, the school management, and the student's socioeconomic background, or the facilities in the school. The only thing you have a total control over is your own behavior. In that sense, you should build an image, a persona of a teacher who looks reasonable, trustworthy, strong, confident, consistent, energetic, serious or funny whenever needed, a true leader. Only then they will respect you, care about you, and follow your decisions. Building this image takes a considerable amount of time and requires a great amount of experience and trial and error. Take baby steps when you start your first job. Don't get too hard on you when you make errors. Always focus on the image you want to create. Carefully imagine which characteristics of this image you want to be stronger than others. And more importantly, never give up. First of all, focus on a student-based approach. Collect data about your students' socioeconomic backgrounds, families, parents' age and jobs, number of siblings, medical history, general interests, and talents, if any. This will help you get to know your students better and thus understand your students' needs for learning. Help build the most suitable learning environment for them. It is best to do this before the academic year starts. Such student-based learning environments are the easiest to manage. Secondly, let students participate in building this environment. For the first day of school, design a fun activity for the students in which they are expected to participate in setting the classroom rules. Make suggestions, ask for suggestions, ask them to vote for the final version of the rules. Together with the students, design a colorful poster for the rules. Ask them to sign it. They especially like signing things if they are young learners because it is a serious adult activity. And hang the contract on the wall. When students actively participate in setting the rules, there is a much higher chance that they will obey them. All behavior communicates to us. It tells us something about the person who's behaving like that. In that sense, it is a way of expression. Small children have limited vocabulary and social experience. That's why they are less able to articulate what they are really feeling or describe what they really need. And so often a misbehavior is the result of an unmet physical or emotional need. So take the first couple of weeks to watch and learn from the students' behavior. Some may find it difficult to focus, which causes them to be frequently off task. And some may have issues with their social emotional development, which may result in arguing with other students. Take notes and analyze their behavior. This will let you know what reactions you will get from them. The biggest mistake that you may make is to misread the student's behavior. This is the part you need to be adamant about your emotions. For example, a student may get completely defiant, refusing to do any task, breaking the classroom rules. And this may be a consistent, regular behavior. Some young teachers may interpret such a severe and regular misbehavior as personal. They may think the student simply hates them and fall into negative behavior towards him or her. Taking such behavior personally makes it more difficult to analyze the behavior and detect the reasons of it. Instead, you can try to talk to the student privately, collect more information about him or her from the other teachers or parents, and when you realize the reason why the student behaves like this, you can design a strategy to make him or her stop. In fact, you should never let your emotions rule your behavior in front of the students, because the students understand they can make us feel a certain emotion. If your emotions are close to the surface, they'll know they can bring them out at will, and they may use it against you whenever they are tempted to misbehave. For instance, when you come to an exploding point, which is completely natural in a poorly managed classroom environment, you may shout at the students. For the first couple of times, shouting may work because it's an intimidating act. But after a while, they will get used to being shouted at. And what's worse, they can start using it for fun. They can get a rise up to, just to test your patience and make you lose control to get what they want. Making your expectations clear to each student is another strategy you should employ while you're building healthy classroom management habits. Especially in the first weeks, make sure all your students understand your expectations clearly, what is acceptable and what is not. To do that, use clear and direct statements with imperatives. For instance, when you say, listen quietly, the students may focus on the quietly part and misinterpret your command. They may think that they can talk among themselves as long as they do it quietly. For the first weeks, try not to modify your commands or instructions with adjectives or adverbs, especially with young learners whose idea of abstract concepts has not fully grown yet. Not only clear, but your expectations should be consistent. Every time you give a command, your expectation from the students should always be the same. To illustrate, when you say read, if it means reading the text without talking to each other, it should always mean that. There shouldn't be any exceptions, and the students may tend to remember that one exception and act accordingly. And when you react against that, they may get confused and your consistent image will maybe shattered. Another habit you should build is, when you react to misbehavior during class, avoid using rhetorical questions because they are confusing, especially for young learners, and ineffective. For instance, you may get outraged when you see a student is off task, and you may react saying, "Why aren't you on task?" Instead of interpreting it as a reaction, the student may try to find an answer to that. In older groups, the witty students may mock your question and give you funny answers instead of putting themselves on task. React in clear statements instead. Although classrooms are large spaces and students may be seated in the front or at the back, inexperienced teachers tend to stick to the front of the room. It is completely natural for such teachers to be in a defensive behavior during their early encounters with students, and the habit that should be given up even before it forms. Despite the fact that it feels safer in the front because it is your workplace, you are closer to the electronic devices, the board, and the students only go there when they are asked or permitted to. Misbehavior often happens at the back of the room, especially if your students notice you are not so willing to walk there. Stand in the front only when you need to use the devices and the board. Other times, keep moving around like a watchful drone. Make the students feel they are being watched. Pop up suddenly behind them while they are focused on something other than the task they should be on. This is a great way of monitoring and regulating behavior, because if you suddenly appear by their side, they are caught red-handed and can't make any excuses for their misbehavior. If you struggle leaving the front of the classroom, put yourself on a simple task. When you need to monitor the students, Assign yourself the task of touching all 4 walls at least once. That way, you'll make sure you get everywhere in the room. Another thing you should be careful about is which side of the room you get into more contact with. Teachers tend to teach to their dominant sides. If you are right-handed, you may get into more interaction with the right side of the room, which means the students on the right will get more attention, and the students on the left will definitely notice that. To regulate this behavior of yours, practice maintaining eye contact with the left side as well. And don't forget to go back of the room while talking, as the left side of the room becomes the right side when you are there. Last but not least, while training your students to behave during the class, try not to do all the work by yourself. Learning is a process in which the learner should also take part. The students should have enough opportunity to practice self-discipline and self-regulation of behavior. Try to intervene in their process of learning self-discipline as least as possible. Leave them enough space to achieve it themselves and congratulate them heartily when they do so. Let them know frequently that their behaviors are very appropriate and that you are happy about it. This will encourage them to behave in the future classes. With severely problematic classrooms, where more than half of the students have the tendency to misbehave, try a little exercise that takes 5 minutes before each class. Ask them to try to sit still and quiet for 5 minutes. Encourage them by saying that you believe they can do it. You can even bribe them with sweets or stickers. When the time is up, send all the positive vibes you can to them and make them feel proud of themselves. This is how you can give them an opportunity to self-regulate their behavior. Teaching is a performance no different than that of an actor in theatre. After you build your image and a healthy learning environment, you will be the star of the show. Good luck in your journey.